Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm very happy that you're here because I have something that's a really fun, easy project to show you. Do you guys have these old Reader's Digest bound volumes like this? Maybe they're falling apart at the seams like this one is. If you do, you can make these into a journal like this. This is just a thin one that I made with just one signature and a few pages. You can make them as thin or as thick as you like, but today I'm going to show you how to do it. And it's really easy, it's really fun, and let's get started. But if you don't have these books, I guess I should mention that you can come across these really easily at used bookstores, which is where I got a whole stack of them for really cheap. You can go to garage sales, antique malls, thrift stores, any place that has old stuff like this. So you can usually get them for about $1 a piece, or even maybe less sometimes. So yeah, these are great because they got such pretty covers. You know, they're very vintage. This one's from I don't know if you can see that, but it's from 1970, and it has a very cool looking retro cover on it, and we're going to use this one today. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to disembowel the book. We're going to gut it. So it's already coming apart, as you can see, so it's not really a sacrifice. It's utilizing the book that probably would have wound up in the recycling, or I don't know if you can recycle. Yeah, you could probably recycle. Anyhow, without it getting thrown away, you can use this. So what you need to do is take your craft knife. I've got this kind of craft knife, which I'm not really crazy about, but it's what I got. And you see how the inner spine and the outer spine separate really easily. So it's going to make your disembowelment, that's really a rude word to say, but your taking out the innards much easier. And I'll show you. Just carefully cut right along there until the book comes apart. Like that. So do that on both sides. And slice is really easy because they're old books. Now, I was going to say that you could utilize the spine still, and you still could. I accidentally cut mine completely through. So here we have the innards of the book, which you can still read if you want to read these books, which some of them are really good stories, or you can use them, the book pages, in projects, so the book will not go to waste. So I'll put that aside for now. And what I was going to say is you could still utilize this spine if you wanted. Since the book was old and cracked, you would have to reinforce either side, or like take something and wrap it completely around the spine in order to hold it in place. But I'm going to sacrifice the spine and just cut it off. So I will do that. Very carefully. This is kind of hard to do on camera, so it's a little awkward. I'm going to just stand it up and do it. I'm sorry, it's hard to see, but you can tell what I'm doing. I'm just carefully cutting the spine off. And it doesn't really matter if you have jagged edges, because we're going to be covering that. So there. Now the spine is off. I was going to say we could use it as a bookmark, but it's kind of curved, and I don't know if it would work. It's very cool looking. Anyway, so we'll put that aside. And if you've got any loose ends, loose edges like this, you can trim them down if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and trim them with some scissors real quick. Just this. It's not entirely necessary because we're going to be covering this, but just to make it a little tidier, do that. And this one, it's got a rough edge, but it's good. So we can put away our craft knife. Now, just throw this stuff away. So now we have our two panels, and since they both are the same, it doesn't really matter which one's the front or which one's the back. You can choose whichever one you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a gap for the spine. What we're going to use for the spine is cloth. You could use paper if it's strong enough, as long as it's strong enough to hold up to being a spine. I'm going to use this tea-dyed piece of cloth that I have. It's the same cloth that I used in the other book, but I think it matches well with the book. So again, with this vintage look, you know, they both go. So I'm going to use this one. You can use a piece of old bed sheet. This is cotton, so any kind of cloth really that you want to use, you could use a strip of. What you want it to be is long enough to cover both the inside and the outside of the book, plus a little bit longer, because we're going to wrap it all the way around for reinforcement. I want to make a gap that is maybe, since here's the signatures that the signature that I'm going to use is just these pages here. It's just a real simple cut down craft paper, one signature. So, which is kind of what I did in this one. I made the spine very, very narrow. I think the spine is, well, it's hard to tell, but it's about 1/4 of an inch. It's only about 1/4 of an inch. It's very small. So I'm going to make a small spine in this book too. So I'm just going to eyeball it, make about 1/4 of an inch spine gap. And I'm using the squares on my tablecloth to line up the top and the sides a little bit so that they'll be even. Some people have craft mats. I have a tablecloth with squares, so it works for me. Next thing I'm going to do is take some Scotch tape and just lay them down in a few places, like so that it holds the panels in place. Okay, great. So that's the next step. Then what we're going to do is carefully, without breaking the tape, because I've done this before and I broke the tape and I had to start over again. Carefully turn it over. Let me just make sure they're lined up properly. Yeah, it looks like they're pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to carefully turn this over. So, okay, and next thing that we're going to do is glue down our strip of fabric into the middle. What I'm going to do for that is use thin Mod Podge. And if you have Mod Podge, you'll probably want to go ahead and thin it out a little bit. I've got a little Dixie cup to put it in. So if it's too thick, it might be just too hard to work with. And mine's actually really thin. It's actually probably too thin, but it works really well. So you can make your Mod Podge stretch really far with thinning it out. So that's what we're going to do next. So what I'm going to do is just take the Mod Podge and pour it into the cup, just a teeny bit. I mean, you're not going to need very much at all. Just a teeny bit, because it goes far. So you're going to take your paintbrush, and let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Maybe that'll be a little bit better. And just take your little bit of Mod Podge there and just paint the inner part of your panels, like so. And what we're going to do is put the piece of cloth over it, but if your glue gets on, you know, overlapping where the cloth goes, that's fine, because it'll dry. So there was just the teeniest amount of Mod Podge that I used, and it already covered the entire panel. So next thing we'll do is lay it down. Lay it down as centered as we can, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then take some more Mod Podge and paint it right over the cloth. Like I said, I just poured the tiniest amount, and you can always pour more, of course, but it's just, you don't need as much as you might think. This Mod Podge goes really pretty far when you have it thinned like this. I think I have my book a little bit crooked, but oh well. Okay, so that's the first step to gluing in the spine. Now what we have to do is wait for it to dry. So depending on the humidity of your room, it may take anywhere from a half an hour to an hour to dry. So what I'll do is wait for it to dry, and I will come back and move on to the next step. I'll see you in a minute. All right, you guys, we are back, and our inner spine is nice and dry, and it's sturdy and secure. The pages thankfully fold. I realized that if I left too small of a gap, it would have made it difficult for the panels to close, because it needs some give over here, I think. So a little bit of a gap is good. Now what we're going to do is the outside, obviously, and so let us go ahead and do that. I think I'm going to put this protective cereal box liner underneath so I don't get my table gluey or anything like that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, first removing the pieces of tape that I have holding the spine together, which really came in handy. I think I've tried to do it, you know, just holding the panels together in the space, you know, with the space in the middle that I wanted, and try to keep it that way, and that's just really hard to do. So the tape is our friend. If you don't have Scotch tape, you can use washi tape. So there we go. Again, we're going to start with our Mod Podge thinned. Shake it up a little bit. And we're going to pour a little bit into a cup. Just a little bit's all you need. Okay, are we in frame? I just want to make sure I'm in frame and yet close enough to where you can see exactly what I'm doing. So we're going to dip our brush in and just paint the spine, or, you know, paint the panels near the spine all the way. You want to, one thing I didn't mention before is that when you're gluing down the cloth part, just make sure that you get all the way to the edges. You can't really overdo it. A little bit of Mod Podge overlapping your cloth onto the panels themselves is not the end of the world at all. So don't be too afraid to do that. So we're gonna, this is rather long. I really don't need this much cloth. So I'm gonna just go ahead and cut some of this. Let me just back it up a little, because all I need is to paint this on and overlap it a little bit so that, you know, I guess I'll cut it up to about right here. That's a good overlap. Well, that's plenty of overlap. Maybe just here. Well, I don't know. What do you think? Too bad you can't tell me. I think this will be plenty because it sticks down pretty good. All right, I'll do 3 squares. How's that? Indecisiveness. You know how it goes, right? Okay, silly little things. But here we go. We've got our piece of cloth down now, and we can start painting on top of it, and that is very satisfying. Painting is always fun, whether you're painting on glue or paint or anything. Looks like I need a little bit more. I hope you guys are all doing well today. I'm having a good day, and I'm happy about that. So I hope you guys are too. And if you're not, I'm sorry. I hope that it gets better. I sure do know what tough times are like too. And so I really appreciate the good days, you know? So anyway, so we've got our back panel all the way glued down with the Mod Podge. And I think I did pretty good with sealing the edges. And really, this is really strong glue. It leaves like almost like a rubbery type, very vague, faint, or should say. It's just on there really good. I don't know how else to explain it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this all in one go, or at least try it, just by standing it up like this a little bit. I want you to be able to see, but oops, I didn't paint underneath there. Do I need to? Yeah, I probably do. Okay, so paint underneath there a little bit. This is going very well. And flip it over. Pull it a little bit tight. So it's nice and flat on there. Try to make it straight. That's good enough. And there we go. Yeah. Sorry, I got excited. Okay, so now how's that look? Yeah, it's looking good already. It just needs to dry. So we just need to dry. And I'm gonna stand it up. I think it'll be fine, and dry it like that. So that's how it's looking. Inside, outside, front, back. We're not sure which one's which yet, but we're gonna go ahead and let that dry. And then our next step is to sew in our signatures, which will be super fun. Here, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the signature. That's the signature. And it's gonna fit in there nicely, I think. So that'll be the fun part too. So we're looking forward to that. I'll be back in a second. Hi everybody, we're back. Everything's all dry and put together and looking really good. I'm really happy with the way the spine turned out, and the panels look great. And so now it's time to bind in the signature. So here is our signature, and here is our bookbinding kit. And so let's pick out some thread. Let's see. I was thinking that orange would go good. I usually am not really excited about orange, but I'm kind of liking the vibe of this. And since this book was printed in 1970, this was the year I was born. So yeah, that works. I'm liking it. So I'll use orange, and I often use this waxed thread. It works really good, and it holds really well, but you don't have to use it every single time. It is very strong though. But this embroidery floss will work just fine for this small project here. And we have an awl. Here, I'll move this out of the way so you don't see all the stuff that we don't need. I'll put this aside. So we need our awl, and we need a needle. I've got some needles in here. I think I got this awl and needles and wax thread in a bookbinding kit that I ordered on Amazon a while ago for not very much money. So yeah, you can get these things, and it will really help you along in your junk journal journey. So one thing that happened is I discovered that my signature is going to be too fat, and either the signature is too fat or the spine is too narrow, so it's going to gape. and I'm not happy about that, but it is what it is. It's just going to be a gaping book. Perhaps I could tie some ribbon around it to hold it shut more, because it's gonna bulk up, especially as I start gluing things in, because I have a plan for this. But anyway, let that be a lesson to all of us, that don't be too stingy with your gap when you're making your spine like I did. Definitely leave some of a gap, because otherwise the book doesn't even close. So that's something that I've learned. So next thing we're going to do is add the signature like so. Oh, and if you notice, I put on some paper clips to hold the signature in place, one here and one here. I've seen some of the experts do it without using paper clips, but I don't trust myself though to keep the pages together. So this works pretty well. And since it's just one signature in a small book, we don't really need anything like a template. We're just going to go ahead and do it by eye. First thing we're going to do is poke our holes. If you've never seen a 3-hole pamphlet stitch done, I am going to show you how to do that right now. It's been done a million times and you've probably seen it, but just in case, I'll do it and show you anyway. First hole goes right in the center. Second hole about 1 inch from the top. Make sure that you push it a good way through, not all the way through, but enough for your needle to get through. And then about 1 inch from the bottom. So another thing was, I had to decide which would be the front and which would be the back. And the way I chose that was, this one has a little bit of a straighter edge, and this side is a little bit wonkier. So I'm going to just make this the back. Not that it really matters, but that was how I decided that. So here we go. We've got our holes punctured. Now, let us thread our needle. Maybe need my glasses for this. Let's choose a needle that's got a big enough eye to fit the embroidery floss. And let's find the end of it. And so with the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, what we do is thread our needle, and then we want to do 1, 2, 3 to be safe, which is way enough to sew in our signature. Cut that off, and here's how we do it. You start in the middle, and you poke your hole. You go all the way through your spine. This is one of the most satisfying parts. I really enjoy sewing in the signatures, and you will too. Leave yourself a little tail and kind of hold it so it doesn't get loose. If you can, at least make sure it doesn't get loose. Then find your upper hole and your outside, and then you want to go in to the top. I hope this is coming through on video. It's a little bit fiddly, you know, trying to maneuver the book around and show you at the same time, but I hope that you're getting the idea here. So you've gone in through the middle, out through the top. You're going to skip your bottom hole and go back down all the way to the bottom, and then go all the way through. Pull it a little bit. I think we need a little bit more. Okay, so that's that. And then the last one is the middle hole again, which we're going to go in through. And this is crucial that you be careful that when you're putting your needle through the middle hole again, that you don't split the thread. If you see that the thread is starting to split, which happens quite a bit with this embroidery floss, just take it out and pull it back. Try it again, because otherwise it could cause damage. So when you're coming back up through middle, make sure, oops, see, I think I've split it, have I? Nope. Okay, so what you do then is have them on either side of your middle string, one on one side, one on the other, and then in the middle like this. You can remove your needle, and then you just simply tie it in a knot once or twice, or as many times as you feel comfortable. Unless you're going to put charms or anything on these, you can just snip off the middle, just like so. Then we can take off our paper clips, because these pages are in, and we have got our journal complete. Look at that. Doesn't that look great? Again, it is gaping, I see that. But other than that, I really like it. And you know, you could put like some ribbon trim or lace across here perhaps, kind of like I did with this book here. I put a piece of trim and it looks really nice. I'm not going to do that today because I have a plan for this where I might put an image right over this, but we'll see. If it turns out really good, maybe I'll do a flip through and show you the fun of it. So thanks for joining me for this simple tutorial on using Reader's Digest books covers to make a junk journal. If you enjoyed it, I hope that you'll like it and that you'll subscribe and share and leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Bye.